When you want to reach out to God, go to fire, and the fire will take your prayers to God and bring God's blessings back to you.
Let's go to ancient Persia. So there's a young Zoroaster who gets a divine vision from Ahura Mazda, the wise one, and he gives him the truths of existence. Now, Zoroaster's teachings were passed on in the oral tradition, and over time they got compiled into the Avesta, which is the holy book of the Zoroastrians. Now, at the core of the Avesta lies gathas, or the hymns which are attributed to Zoroaster himself, and they offer profound insights into ethics, into spirituality, and into the human connection to the divine. I'm going to read a particular verse from the gathas. Through the good mind, O wise one, I realize you as the creator of the world, the source of truth and righteousness, granting joy and strength. You guide those who uphold truth through good deeds. These words encapsulate the essence of Zoroastrianism. We talk here about truth, we talk about righteousness, we talk about contributing to the world by doing good deeds. And like a lot of other scriptures, the Avesta itself had a lot of challenges because during the time of Alexander, during the invasion of Alexander, much of the original texts were destroyed. And then, using oral tradition, the Zoroastrian priests worked very hard to put together these texts again, and they compiled them and they translated them into Pahlavi during the Sasanian era. Welcome to Ancient Wisdom for Modern Living, which is our current series. And the season that we're talking about at the moment is Sacred Texts, Timeless Wisdom. I'm your host, Anshu Bahanda, and I would like to welcome Dr. Ramiyar Karanjia. He did his master's and PhD from St. Xavier's College in Mumbai. He's a principal of the Dadar Athornan Institute. He teaches religion, he teaches Iranian history, and he teaches Iranian languages. His contribution is that of an author, an editor. He's a translator, a columnist, and he's enriched the Zoroastrian tradition with his teachings. Thank you for being here with us, Dr. Karanjia. It's a privilege to have you here today.
Pleasure is all mine.
So, Dr. Karanjia, before I get into asking you questions about the Avesta, I want to ask you something to clarify things for myself and just to put it into context for all our readers. I was in Uzbekistan a couple of months ago, and they were talking about how all of Central Asia was part of Iran earlier, and how there was a lot of Zoroastrianism there at that point. So when did Zoroastrianism actually start? Was it as far back as 4 to 6 BC?
Zoroastrianism is a very ancient religion. In fact, arguably, some may argue, but it is considered as the first revealed religion in the world, and Prophet Zarathustra as the first prophet for mankind. He was born in such antiquity that the exact date is difficult to put. According to our ancient tradition, even when archaeology was not in picture, we believed that Prophet Zarathustra was born 6500 BC around. It is almost 8500 years ago. Now, the Prophet himself was born in a belief system called Mazda Yasni. Mazda is the name of the god of the Zoroastrians.
Yes.
So he is more well known as Ahura Mazda.
Yes.
Or Hormazd.
Yes.
So this word Hormazd is made up from two words, Ahura and Mazda. Mazda means wisdom. And Ahura is a title which means Lord. So Ahura Mazda became the full name of the god. But before that, the god was known as Mazda. And almost 1500 years before the prophet was born, there was a belief system called Mazda Yasni.
So you're saying that that's when Zoroastrianism, the way we know it today, started?
Yes.
Around 6000 BC, 6500 BC. I mean, the reach of Zoroastrianism was huge at one point. Is that right? all
Yes.
the way to Central Asia, all the way to Egypt,
So I'll tell
when
you.
the Iranian Empire was huge. Is that right?
Yes. See, when we talk of ancient Iran, we should know that it is not one landmass as we know of it today.
Yes, absolutely.
The
Yes.
place that we today call Iran, also known as Persia,
Hmm.
but properly, formally known as Iran, is as it is just now. But when you talk of Prophet Zarathustra, and when I talk of the kings and the Sotians are benefactors. Before Prophet Zarathustra in the Mazda-Yasni system, they were not staying in the present day Iran. If you read Iranian history, there were a group of kings called the Achaemenian kings.
Yes, they talk about the Achaemenian Empire a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah.
roughly around 600 BC to 200 BC, roughly. Like 333, the Alexander brought an end to the Achaemenian Empire. You mentioned it when you introduced the religion. So those around 350 to 400 years, this Achaemenian kings, who were also Zoroastrians, they occupied almost 60 to 65% of the then known world.
Okay.
They occupied what we today know as much of Central Asia,
Yes, yes,
much as
yes.
parts of Africa,
Okay.
parts of Europe, even parts of North India. They were
Interesting.
kings of almost 60% of the world at that time.
Now I want to talk about the Avesta. So when was it first compiled?
So when we talk of Avesta, we should know that it means two things. One, it is the name of the language. And
Yes.
second, it is the term applied to the collection of all the scriptures and texts which are written in that religion, which are
Yes.
written in that
Yes.
language.
Yes. So Avesta Pallavi are the two, is a language, correct?
Pahlavi is a language which came hundreds of years after Avesta.
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
Sanskrit and Hindi.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Avesta as a language was used during the time of Prophet Zarathustra. That is, we can say around 6500 BC.
Okay.
But at that time, writing as we know of today was not known. Much of the Avesta that Prophet Zarathustra brought was in an oral tradition.
Right. Right.
But we are also told in our religious books that they were also written down on parchments and cowhides. So that may be perhaps one copy or two copy of the Avesta in a very rudimentary script. Today, archaeologists have come to the conclusion that the first script, the oldest script that have been unearthed, are about 5.5 to 6,000 years old.
Okay.
So, in such a script, only one or two copies were made and deposited in the archives of the kings. You know, though the language is so old, it did not have a script of its own.
Okay.
The script that we use to write Avesta today
is Pallavi?
No, the name of the script is called Din Dabire.
So it's not Pallavi, it's Din
Pahlavi is
Davir.
a totally different language. So even during the Achaemenian period, we are told that the Achaemenian kings in their palaces at Persepolis had deposited the sacred Avestan text, but once again in a script which we do not know of.
Okay.
Which were destroyed by Alexander.
Yes. So it was interesting when I was in Central Asia, the comparison, like Alexander in India is called Alexander the Great, right? But in Central Asia, there's a very different perception of him.
Yes.
So it's all about perception, right?
Yes, exactly. In our religious text, he is called Alexander Gajastak. Gajastak means the cursed one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
okay.
Generally, if a Zoroastrian has some knowledge about his religion, he would not say Alexander the Great.
Yes, very interesting. I want to come back to the Avesta now. Will you explain to us the structure of the Avesta? Because I believe there's a lot of sections to it.
let's start from today and then go backwards.
Okay.
So presently, the Avesta that we have is divided into 4 distinct books. One book is called Khorde Avesta, which is the daily prayer book for Zoroastrians.
Okay.
Then there is a book called Yashts. Yashts are bigger texts dedicated to divine beings, invocation of individual divine beings. Then we have a text called Yasna, which has 72 chapters. You read out the translation of a verse from the Gathas. So the Gathas are the direct outpourings of the prophet.
Yes, I believe so. They're supposed to be
First person.
Sorry?
In first person.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. And they are poems. That's why they are called Gathas.
Yes.
So these Gathas are just 17 chapters in this book of 72 chapters, which we call the Yasna. Then there is another book called Visparan, which is to the seasonal lords of the season, which has 24 chapters, is called the Vandidar, which is more or less a law book, a book about do's and don'ts, about purity ethics and impurity.
So there's 5 scriptures. Okay. And tell me, these were destroyed by Alexander, right?
No, let me go back. Sorry. Okay. Sorry to confuse you.
Yes.
Our religious tradition says that Prophet Zarathustra gave 21 books of scriptures to his people and to the patron king, which are referred to as Nask. Nask means a volume.
Okay.
So there's 21 Nasks were there, as I told you, written in a script which we don't know today, on parchments and hides. And just a couple of copies were there in the archives. The rest were through oral tradition. So what Alexander destroyed actually was those 21 books, 21 volumes, 21 Nasks. But fortunately, because they were by heart to 21 groups of priests or families of priests, so they made an attempt to regather these people and write down the scriptures once again.
Oh, I see. And you know, one of my favorite questions when we're doing, and the reason we're doing this ancient wisdom for modern living, is the question I keep asking everyone is, how is this relevant today? How is what happened then relevant today? This work that was done to put the Avesta back.
See, today we are spoiled for choices. If you want to save your work, you will save it in your hard drive.
Yeah.
Then you will save it in an external hard drive. Then you'll again go to the cloud and save it. Why do we do this? Because we have got it in our genes not to put all our eggs in one basket. So this is the concept which those people had. They knew that written thing may be destroyed, but what is in memory will always remain.
Interesting.
And not only one person, they shared the work. Like if there is a priest family of 100 priests were given the responsibility of one Nask, one book. Like I may make a mistake here, the other priest may make a mistake there. So many editions were taken in, they were collated, and then a final edition was made.
Very interesting.
So that also shows teamwork.
There's one thing that, you know, growing up that my Parsi friends have always talked about, and that is good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, or humakta, hukta, and huvarshita.
Zoroastrians are associated with these 3 words. But if you go to see, all religions teach goodness.
Yes.
There is not a single religion you will find anywhere in the world which tells people not to be good.
Exactly.
So goodness in that sense is not a monopoly of the Zoroastrian religion, but it is, they have put it that goodness is necessary and important. Perhaps the most important thing, to be good in our own hearts and for others. So in our scriptures, a question is asked. You will be surprised that what is good thoughts, what is good words, and what is good deeds. Like goodness at our level is good, that we have to be good, we have to be nice to others, we have to be civil with people. But according to Zoroastrian religion, when they say good thoughts, it goes one step deeper and says good thought is the one thought that God thought at the time of creating the universe. It's a very beautiful idea. What is the thought that God thought when creating the universe? And it's very simple. It is progress and prosperity. And finally, what is good deed? So wonderfully, it is said that all deeds which finally lead men to the final liberation are good deeds. Praising all the righteous things, helping all the righteous things, move towards the one final goal of mankind.
Okay.
So, of course, good thoughts, good words, good deeds in its elementary form is also necessary and important. But in its more advanced understanding, as the religion explains, gives you another perspective to it altogether.
I will remember that. Thank you. Very interesting. I also heard this fascinating story that a friend of mine was telling me about the sacred fire and how it was brought to India. I don't know if it's true, but this is what she'd heard, that it was carried from Iran in an all Parsi crew sent by Air India. Is that right?
No, there is a mix up over here. I'll tell you. Zoroastrians left Iran, not all, but a sizable number
Mm-hmm.
left Iran around 1300 years ago to salvage and safeguard their religion.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the Iran, which was then taken over by the Arabs, it was difficult to follow the religion. They were forced to change their religion. So they had to amass, leave the shores of Iran.
Okay. Okay.
When they had to choose where to go, they chose to come to the hospitable shores of India 1200 years back. Fire was ignited in Sanjan, a place in Gujarat.
Gujarat.
Coming
Yes.
from Iran to India,
Yes.
and that is still burning for almost 1300 years at our holiest of holy places called Udwada.
Okay.
Now, you talk about a flight with an all Parsi crew bringing fire. That happened only about 40 to 50 years back. I don't recollect the exact date just now.
Mm-hmm.
When Aden was taken over, there was a revolution in Aden. Aden is a place in Yemen. And there was a sizable Parsi population because one Parsi gentleman had gone there, settled there, and was doing business. So he brought many Parsis over there, and there they had established a fire temple. But after the revolution, there was a danger that that fire may die down.
I see. Okay.
Because the Parsis would be forced to flee. You can bring a sacred fire only by land route.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that's why they tried to get the fire by land route. But then it may have to come through 4 or 5 different countries and it would take weeks, which was not an hospitable thing at that time. So they had a choice, either break the rule of the religion to a certain extent and let the fire survive. And then the think tank of the religion decided that no, we can tweak this much and allow the fire to fly by the special flight, Air India flight, which was specially fitted with certain things. Sanctions were taken from the prime ministerial and ministerial level to do this. Not only there was an all Parsi crew, but specially roads were closed after coming to Mumbai. And there was an all Parsi police fleet.
Wow.
Supporting the sacred fire, which was first brought to Mumbai, kept here for a few hours for some rituals, and then taken to Lonavala.
Oh, I see.
Where it is still burning. The fire
It's still
of
burning. Wow. So tell me about the importance in the religion of the sacred fire and how do you create it? I believe there's 4 very difficult things involved, including lightning.
First of all, when we Zoroastrians and when in our scriptures we talk about fire, the word for fire, by the way, in Avestan is Atar. Now, Zoroastrians pay great respect to fire, but they don't directly worship the fire. Why? Because we Zoroastrians consider the fire as a living representative of God on earth. God can only be visualized as light.
Right.
God can be visualized only as life. God can be visualized only as warmth. And all these things come together in fire.
Light, life, and warmth. Lovely.
And that's why the symbolism of fire is that it is your representative of your God. When you want to talk to God, when you want to reach out to God, go to fire, and the fire will take your prayers to God and bring God's blessings back to you.
Wonderful. And tell me, how does one create this fire? I believe it's not easy to
Yes,
create a new fire.
it's very difficult. I'll tell you. We Zoroastrians grade fire into three different grades. One is the simple household fire,
Mm-hmm.
which we call the Dadga. Dadga means any fire in its proper place. The second is called Adran, or more loosely as an Agyari. That's a simple, ordinary fire temple. In that, the fire is specially created. So, fire is taken from four sources: the house of a priest, the house of a farmer, the house of a soldier, and the house of a worker. Hours together of rituals are performed over each individual fire. Like at least about 100 hours of rituals are put in that. Then the four fires are amalgamated.
Okay.
And then that fire is enthroned in a fire temple, which is the fire of the second grade. Now you mentioned something about the fire of lightning.
Yes.
That is for the fire in the highest grade. The fire of the highest grade has fire from 16 different sources. One of the source is lightning, fire from lightning. And there are 15 other sources. And the hours of rituals that go into it runs into thousands. And then that fire temple is the fire temple of the highest grade, which we call an Atash Behram. So there are only 4 such Atash Behrams in Mumbai today.
Okay.
And 4 others in the rest of India.
Okay. And how many are there in the world? Is there a count or not?
Outside India, there is only one Atash Behram in Iran.
Oh, wow.
In a
So
place
there's
called
only
Yaz.
9 in the world, in the whole world.
9 in the whole world.
Wow. Avesta talks a lot, I think, about living in harmony with nature, this concept of Asha, truth and order.
Yes.
So can you talk to me a little bit about how modern environmental challenges can be overcome using teachings from the Avesta?
See, this again is a wonderful question because we regard Zoroastrian religion as an ecological religion.
Lovely.
We break down the creations into 7 groups and we consider each creation as sacred. It is accepted that each creation was created for man because man is the most supreme creation. But that does not give men the right to misuse the creations. And another beautiful thing is that there is a divine being who looks after every creation. So, if you offend the creation, you offend the divine being. And every divine being, or each of these 7 divine beings are called Amesha Spans, which are somewhat like archangels, higher angels.
Yes, yes.
Because as I told you, there are many angels in the religion, but only 7 archangels.
Okay.
And each archangel presides over one creation. So if you look after that creation, then that archangel presides over a virtue and he blesses you with the power to get more and more of that virtue.
So can I quickly ask you to tell me what the 7 creations are?
The first creation, in their order in one of our books, the earth, then the sky, then the water, then the plants, then animal, and then humans, and finally comes fire, which gives energy and life to all the other creation. So it has an existence of its own, as well as it gives life and vivifies all the creations. So these are the 7 creations, and there is one archangel who looks after each creation, and each archangel looks after one virtue.
So, Dr. Karanjia, you've been teaching, Zoroastrianism extensively, and you've done a lot for the religion. Tell me, what are some of the challenges that you come across when you're trying to translate the Avesta?
See, as I told you, Avesta is a very, very old language. Very, very one of the most ancient language which has survived today. And that by itself is difficult to translate because the older the language, the more difficult the grammar is.
Okay.
Secondly, the other challenge which comes in translating Avesta is that there are some concepts, some technical words, which have no equivalent in any known languages, especially English. I'll give you just one example. One of the most well-known words from our Avesta is called Asha.
Which we talked about,
Yes.
Yeah.
So Asha is the divine order, but it also means truth. It also means righteousness. It also means piety. It means so many things. Now,
because that's divine order.
yes,
All
this
those
is
things
part
come
of
from
the
divine
divine
order.
order. Now, at different places in the Avesta, the word is used in different contexts. Now, while translating, the challenge is what you will use where. Another challenge is that Asha is also the name of the divine being who looks after the concept. So, is it a proper noun? Is it an abstract noun? Is it a common noun? And if an abstract noun and a common noun, then what understanding it is? So, then translation becomes very subjective.
So then how do you teach this to the youngsters?
When we teach children, we just use one word for one concept. Like for Asha, we just use truth.
Okay.
Because for a very young child, it is difficult to grasp all of this. Because I've been teaching children who are as young as 4 and 5 years old. The biggest challenge is you have to become 4 and 5 years old and understand what they will understand, what they will like, what they will appreciate, what they will enjoy. You try and take away their attention and you are lost totally. So when we translate, we have to make the people understand that this is one sense that we are taking. It could be something else.
There's one more thing that I want to talk about, and that is the Tower of Silence. And correct me if I'm wrong, in the Avesta, like you said, it's an ecological religion because of this importance given to nature. You don't like to pollute the earth, correct? And therefore, when someone passes, the bodies are given to the vultures so that it goes back into the system.
Yes. But vultures were just one part of the system. There are other parts of the system which people generally don't know about. The system is called Dokme Nashini, where Dokma is a circular, round, open building sort of a thing without a roof, in which the bodies are placed. It's called Nashin. The things that work on the dead body, along with the vultures, are secondly sunlight. And thirdly, there are other birds which do assist vultures, other smaller carrions. So presently, since the past almost 20 or more years, the vultures have not been there, unfortunately, because the worldwide vulture population has gone down because of the pain-killing drug diclofenac, especially used for animals.
Oh gosh.
But since the past 25 years, the Dokme Nashini system works on the effect of the sunlight, which dries up the body and disinfects it and disintegrates it. Of course, it takes a bit longer. When the vultures were there, they would eat away the flesh. But when the vultures are not there, it has taken a longer period. But still, it is, we regard it as the best system because it does not pollute the earth, the fire, the water, or the air in any major way. And so, special filters are made that even when liquids from the body go into the earth, or when rainwater washes the body and then it goes into the earth, that water is filtered before it reaches Mother Earth. And there are filters of sandstone and lime built into that building called the Dakma. So there's a special architecture for building this, making this place called the Dakma, which is generally referred to as Tower of Silence.
Do you have any practical advice or simple practices from the Avesta that you can recommend for anyone who's looking to explore this more, explore Zoroastrianism more?
Zoroastrianism as a religion, its philosophy is open for all to read, understand, and practice in their life. But the religion per se, its practices, its community institutions are close to people. Okay, but the beautiful philosophy can be understood and followed by everybody. So the basic thing about Zoroastrian religion is, number one, if we want to take away, it's happiness.
Mm.
To be happy and positive oneself, and then transmit that happiness and positivity to others. And Avesta goes further on to say
Mhm.
that a person who makes others happy will invariably become happy.
Absolutely. Yes. And that was one of my favorite things that I read.
Second thing is that the world that we see is only a small part of the world that we are living in. There is a much bigger unseen world. So that we have to be aware of. And that opens up gradually to us. Like if you are in any religion, you will be talking of God, you'll be talking of angels, you'll be talking of a soul. All these are unseen things, and this unseen element has to be accepted and one has to be aware of when one lives. And lastly, never to underestimate our mind. Our mind is our greatest asset, and Zoroastrianism acknowledges that, because the divine being which comes second to God is called Brahman, and it is the divine being which presides over the mind, and he is called the gatekeeper of heaven. Poetically, he is called the gatekeeper of heaven. Means it is your mind that can lead you to heaven. Like even the Sanskrit word mantra that we recite,
Mhm.
it comes from the word man, meaning mind. So mantras also work through the mind. The word for spirituality in Avesta is Mainu. And Mainu also comes from the man, from the word man. Means you can be spiritual also only through the mind.
Okay, so just before you go, give us one quick practice to control the mind.
You have to take a breath,
Mhm.
and while taking the breath, you have to chant whatever, in whatever religion and tradition you are. You can either speak one word of that tradition, which your tradition permits you, or a line at the most.
Mhm.
And take such breaths, 10 or 12, and that will energize you, that will bring positivity to your mind, and that will make your mind active and agile to take on the challenges of life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karanjia, for sharing your profound insights, for talking to us about so many different things. So thank you. I'm really grateful to you.
Thank you for having me. As we say, the parting greeting is Yazdan Panabad.
I'm writing down everything you've been saying, by the way. Yazdan
Panabad
Panaban.
means may
Okay.
you be in the protection of God.
Thank you. That was lovely. So, as we saw, Zoroastrianism reminds us of the transformative power of truth, of righteousness, and of mindful living. And as Dr. Karanjia said, I'm going to conclude with this reflection from the Avesta, which is happiness comes to those who bring happiness to others. Thank you for joining us for Ancient Wisdom for Modern Living, Sacred Texts, Timeless Wisdom. Do go and subscribe to our page, because that's how we can get you better and better speakers. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.